As the pandemic continues, the economic crisis is set to continue getting worse and worse as more people are laid off. Washington Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal is proposing legislation that would hopefully stabilize that bleeding of jobs from the economy. The Paycheck Recovery Act uses grants to cover the full wages of workers earning salaries up to $90,000. Also ensures employers can rehire those laid off or furloughed since March 1st. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal is the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus and joins us now via Skype. It's great to have you, Congresswoman.
Great to be with you. Thanks for taking the time.
So this is an idea that has a lot of support across the Democratic caucus and also some Republicans who are on board with this idea. So just lay out why you think it would be critical at this time.
Well, we just got this week some unemployment numbers. Another almost 3 million workers have filed for unemployment claims. So that is almost 39 million Americans who have filed for unemployment claims in the last 9 weeks. And we know that the real unemployment rate is even higher than that. And so we are now in a situation where, 1 in 3 workers is likely not getting any income. And mass unemployment is a policy choice. It is a bad policy choice. It is not a choice that most countries around the world have made. If you look at Europe, but also countries in Asia like Singapore, South Korea, Malaysia, they have all instituted a form of a Paycheck Recovery Act. And that is essentially the idea that this relationship between workers and businesses is very important, and that the best thing we can do for workers is to keep money in their pockets by keeping them on paychecks. The best thing we can do for businesses to not shutter, particularly small and medium-sized businesses that have been completely pushed out during this pandemic, is to help those businesses by giving them the money to keep workers on payroll and also to pay some of their operating costs. We could do that immediately, shrink unemployment rolls, because our legislation goes back to March 1st. If a worker was furloughed or laid off, the business would be able to bring them back. And then you keep doing that so that then you can target other assistance to those who don't have paychecks and who are most vulnerable at the bottom. So it is a streamlined way. No banks. The money flows directly from the IRS to the business, to the worker. And you don't have banks picking winners and losers. You don't have, small businesses who are either unbanked or, not the biggest clients suddenly not being able to get a loan, which apparently may be forgivable but may not be forgivable. Right. This is a grant.
Well, look, Congresswoman, frankly, I don't have a lot of hope or expectation from Republican leadership like Mitch McConnell in the Senate. But why has Democratic leadership been resistant to this idea? And what's the plan to pressure them going forward?
Well, I think that what's interesting in a pandemic is that people are used to using the systems that we have, things like the unemployment system, which I'm very glad, by the way, that we expanded unemployment insurance. But pushing everybody onto unemployment insurance is not a good idea for any number of reasons we can go through. And so I think the immediate response is, let's use the systems we have. Let's not try to create something new. But most countries around the world have created this. And actually, Crystal, we did this for the airline package in CARES 1.
Right.
And so what we're saying is, listen, that has kept so many airline workers employed and with the certainty of a paycheck every single month. Let's do that here for all of these different businesses. We know that PPP has been structurally a failure, though it had some good ideas in it. And we know ultimately that people of color in particular have a very tough time coming out of unemployment insurance and back into the workplace because of all the discrimination they face. And so there are reasons why this is important, and it's bicameral and bipartisan. So Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, and Cory Gardner from Colorado have a similar proposal. The numbers aren't
Have you been speaking with them, by the way? Are you working together with them at all?
Yes. Our staffs have been working very closely together and staying in touch. And, and I think that I believe that we as a Democratic Party should be the party of keeping workers in their jobs. But honestly, I believe that we as a country should be the country of keeping workers in their jobs. There is also a Senate Democratic proposal that I think will be released this week with Mark Warner, Bernie Sanders, Richard Blumenthal, and Doug Jones. And so, again, it's a bipartisan, bicameral proposal, we now have almost 100, I think we might be at 100 co-sponsors on my Paycheck Recovery Act, including many frontliners. These are the most vulnerable swing districts in the country for the Democrats. And I think it's because this is about jobs. It's about keeping people in their jobs. It's about economic stabilization. It's about bringing the economy back more quickly and making sure that we target, if we do the Paycheck Recovery Act, we also, by the way, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, 27 million workers have already lost their health insurance because they lost their job. You and I know that healthcare is a massive issue in our country. I've been the lead champion of Medicare for All. I don't think anybody should be losing their healthcare in a pandemic. So the Paycheck Recovery Act pays both paychecks and benefits so that we can keep folks on their healthcare and then expand. And then I have a separate bill, two bills actually, one with Bernie Sanders and a separate one with Joe Kennedy around expanding coverage for everyone who's unemployed or uninsured.
And Congressman, more broadly, how do progressives build power within Congress in order to get more of these priorities heard? Because, you fomented some resistance last week. You actually had some moderate Democrats who joined you in voting against the rule to consider the HEROES Act because it didn't include these priorities that progressives have made very clear are really important, not for progressive ideology, but for the country as a whole. So what is the plan moving forward in order to build actual power to make sure those priorities are incorporated?
We have to regroup. I think that the challenge is that progressives care about a lot of things, and that's a good thing. Progressives also care about governing. That's also a good thing. But sometimes if we can't settle on one or two priorities, it makes it very difficult because a bill, and I've been in this position before too, where a bill has a lot of good things, but then, especially if it doesn't have anything bad, it makes it very difficult to generate votes. But people are constantly weighing these things. And I think what would help is, number one, more coordination between, outside groups and folks on the inside. Because if a whole bunch of progressive groups come out the minute that a bill comes out and say, all those groups say, go ahead, vote for the bill, it makes it very difficult to whip votes against a bill. But I think the other thing is, can we be more streamlined about what our asks are and be more focused about, okay, we know that, it's my bill, so I understand that I'm touting my bill here, but a Paycheck Recovery Act would put paychecks in people's pockets, would keep health care for people, and would allow us to target our other assistance to the most vulnerable, whether it's stimulus checks or rent and mortgage relief. You wouldn't have to do those for everybody. So it's sort of a bill that crosses a number of different areas. Can we get progressives, whether it's that or something else, to say, okay, this is our number one focus? And I think that's challenging, particularly in a pandemic where there is so much need, right? There is so much devastation out there. And people are grasping because we're facing now going on 100,000 deaths. Crystal, just remember during the Vietnam War, 2 decades of the Vietnam War, we lost about 58,000 American lives. We are going on 100,000. We will, at this rate, cross the number of American lives lost during World War I. So there is a lot of angst out there. And then, it's always power never concedes anything without a demand. And it's always challenging to get people to be willing to take on the structures that are, especially when there's a lot of good things in a bill. I think that makes it tough.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, we're really grateful for your time today. Hope you'll come back and keep talking with us. Thank you so much, Congresswoman.
Would love it. Thanks, Crystal.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.